Dark Souls, the sequel to critically acclaimed Demon Souls, came out back in 2011 and was one of my favourite games of that year. It was merciless with its hard gameplay where monsters could kill you in a blink of an eye, and how the multiplayer aspects helped the overall single player experience. Earlier this year, after fans petitioned to get this game to come to PCs, From Software, the producers, announced a PC port with the game's first ever DLC content. It came out on the PC, but a Game of the Year version for the Xbox and PlayStation was put out last week with extra content included. I thought it would be a good chance to look over Dark Souls again for anyone who missed it around first time, and try and persuade you to die all over again with this epically hard action RPG.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog, a land of grey crags and everlasting dragons.
The world is a husk of its former self. It's become decayed and decadent. Once covered in darkness and ruled by dragons, the lesser races found the flames that enchanted them with powerful abilities which helped slaughter the dragons and bring in a new age. But with this power, they became corrupt and let all their work go to ruin and destruction. You enter this world as undead who has been marked. You wake up in the undead asylum, and it becomes a journey of discovery of what has happened to the world and for you to interpret it. There is a prophecy saying a chosen undead will change this world for better or worse. And that is all the backstory you will get in Dark Souls. It's an interesting story mechanic since you got to decide what is actually happening and piece together from the different NPCs you will encounter, but they are as cryptic as this overall story. Some of the stories will play out differently as well if you kill the wrong person, or you choose a different route to go first, and these can affect the overall story and gameplay. There are also a lot of optional areas that have no connection to the game's story as well, that even enriches the world's backstory more. But I wouldn't blame you if you check out the wiki page on Dark Souls to get the overall story on there, since there is a lot of backstory in this game which doesn't get touched on. When you enter the world of Dark Souls after the very helpful tutorial that the original game lacked, you get tasked with ringing 2 tower bells, one at the top of the city in the distance and one in the deep underground labyrinth. That is all the game tells you to do, and it's up to you to discover the routes to each. Unlike its predecessor, which was split into 5 small worlds, Dark Souls is one massive interconnected world. You don't realise this until, say, a third way through the game, where you unlock a shortcut back to the beginning and hidden pathways which let you access treasures on ledges you couldn't reach at the start of the game. Think Super Metroid, but in 3D. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with this living, breathing world, especially since the high-level areas are unlocked right from the get-go, and you will only know it's a high-level area through trial and error. For example, with those 2 bells I told you had to ring at the start, you have access to 3 routes at the beginning of the game. One leads to the bell high up in the city, the other leads to a graveyard with skeletons who can kill you in one hit, or if you unfortunately choose the 3rd route, you're in for quite a nasty surprise. It's kind of liberating and scary how this game doesn't have any hand-holding while you bumble around the world dying multiple times. All you have when you begin this game will be souls, which is the game's currency, your starting equipment, your wits, and if you're lucky, your humanity. You'll begin the game as Hallow, which means you will only have access to 1/2 of your maximum health. The only way to get the other half back is to use your humanity. You acquire humanity through bosses, rare item drops, or through the multiplayer aspect of this game. However, if you die when you use a humanity item to get full health, you will lose it and become hollow again, and return to the last checkpoint. Also, all those souls you were carrying will drop to the floor where you died, meaning you have one chance to get them back again, but if you die again, say goodbye to those hard-earned souls. The game does try and give you some leeway by having checkpoints called bonfires. Here you can upgrade your character's stats with souls, sort out your equipment, use your humanity to restore your health to max, and restock on flasks, which is your bread and butter healing item in this game. Unlike in the original Demon Souls where you have to discover all your healing items and purchase them, Dark Souls gives you them for free whenever you use a bonfire. However, if you do this, every enemy you've killed so far will respawn. This stops you abusing the potions after each fight, so you have to start to ration them out between bonfires and the bosses in the game. All this adds up to an extremely satisfying risk-reward system, which is perfect for this style of gameplay. Should you press on into uncharted territories to find the next checkpoint, or should you run back and spend all those souls you've acquired and restock your flasks? It's a gamble, but a fun one. The NPCs also offer various boons such as selling stuff to you, upgrading your gear, or offering vague clues to side quests you can impart on. You'll be doing a lot backtracking to get these items you need from these NPCs, NPCs as well. There is a quick travel system, but these are few and far apart. You've got to work to get them to open up. Dark Souls is a very lonely journey as well offline, but if you have the game connected to the internet, it becomes another beast altogether. The game is still very much single player, but has ways players can interact with each other. You can leave messages on the floor which other players can read in the world. These messages can range from hidden traps or hinting certain weapons and tactics might be helpful here. But if you're feeling particularly evil, which a good quarter of the community of Dark Souls players are, you can leave false messages. I must have fallen into many traps, pits, and been ambushed by monsters because people hinted there is treasure down a hall, which isn't helpful by there being a lot of hidden area and treasure down halls in the game. You can see other players' ghosts fading in and out if you're in their general area, or you could discover blood on the ground which lets you see how another player died in that area, for warning you to the dangers to come, or it could have been they just fell to their death in a comical style off the ledge. There are other ways you can interact with players as well. If you use humanity to become human again, you can summon other hollow players to assist you to beat hard bosses, or you could assist a player to gain humanity if you were hollow. But this also opens you up to assassination by other players who want your humanity and souls. It's a frightening event when the game tells you your world has been invaded, but if you want to play with friends, you're going to be disappointed since there's no matchmaking service and it's a luck of the draw if you can summon them, which is a shame. This is the type of multiplayer I enjoy though, one that's very single player focused with multiplayer helping the overall experience and not having to schedule your lives with your friends to play. There isn't even voice chat as well, only emotes your characters can perform to get messages across to each other. It makes the journey through Dark Souls an overall more fun and frightening experience. On the game's box, it has 3 words that ring true about Dark Souls: prepare to die. With a warning like that, you know this game will be brutal, and it is. From bosses that can kill you in one hit to surprise ambushes around nearly every corner that can cripple you. Even the first monster you met at the beginning of the game can be threatening if you get sloppy at high levels, especially since you can't pause this game either. But to get there, you're going to need to create a character. You can choose from a range of classic fantasy starting classes, which all have their own equipment and spells. You can be a ranger who can use bows, warriors with swords and shields, or a pyromancer who uses fire to burn their enemies. There are many other classes as well. However, you're not locked to this initial class. Dark Souls characters are all blank slates, which if you upgrade the right stats, you can do everything in this game. So if you fancy a warrior to be able to buff and heal himself, it can. Want a ranger to be as sneaky as a thief, then it can be. There's a lot of freedom when developing your characters, but if you invest poorly, you may struggle later on. Once you enter the world, you come to realise you are a fragile little flower who is going to get stomped on by lots of nasty monsters. The way you will survive is by attacking, blocking, dodging, shooting, and running away. Run away! Run away! Run away! Run away! Run away! All these actions deplete your stamina bar. Stamina dictates how many times you can do something before you have to let it restore. When you encounter enemies, you will need to manage this bar with care, because if it does deplete, you will be open to attacks. You will need to learn how each enemy works, and generally this means dying to them through mistakes. The best way to learn is by being evasive and using your shield instead of going all out. Learn the enemy's patterns and its openings. This is why I recommend you play a light armor class on your first game, since if you use heavy armor, your dodging is laughably bad. It's easy to pick up but hard to master. There's a great combat system with giving you lots of helpful visual feedbacks if you're causing damage or not. If you're dying, it's generally because you weren't paying attention to what was happening or getting cornered. The other aspect of the game are the bosses. These are some of the most frightening challenges in the game and can screw you over quickly with how hard and how unfair some of their attacks seem, especially if some of the bosses come with extra creatures helping them. It's all part of the challenge though, and it's a great feeling when you finally beat them. But the game also rewards you for finding ways to cheat the game as well, which is fun since the game can be unfair, from knocking creatures off ledges to finding sniper spots where you can keep firing and they can't hit you. The AI isn't that smart, so you'll find tricks that can make the game slightly easier, but not feeling cheap doing it, because you deserve it from all those deaths you've had to endure up to that point. The thing that makes Dark Souls stands out from other Japanese action RPGs is its Western fantasy RPG undertones. It has a very serious, dark, medieval fantasy feeling that a lot of Japanese RPGs don't generally attempt to do. From the awe-inspiring castles and forts to the undercity sewer systems and slums, you'll go deep into these places and find the most unusual sights, from volcanic cave systems to lush forests, and even a frightening journey through a painting with its otherworldly creatures coming alive. The monsters who inhabit these areas fit in perfectly gnarly as well, from the corrupted, imposing knights who bar passageways to treasure, to disgusting mutants undercity creatures who are literally falling apart, all the way to the shockingly oversized bosses. It's an imposing game, and the most simple monsters are scary to behold. I want to talk about the music for a sec, and how this game uses it smartly. The only time you ever get music is during boss fights and cutscenes. The rest of the time, it's just silence. This amplifies the experience of it being a lonely journey, with just your footsteps as your only companion, and you listening out for distant sounds for warning you of what is coming up. The voice work of the NPCs you will encounter in this game is generally fine, all very sinister or mysterious. There are times when the game slows down dramatically though, particularly in areas such as Blighttown, where it can drop to 10 frames per second with the amount of detail it's displaying, and this can be frustrating, especially in combat. But I can live with that, since the scale of these areas are stupidly big. This is the first time the publisher From Software has done a PC port from consoles, and they are generally used to porting from PC to consoles. It's a good port, but don't expect many PC features without modding. Dark Souls is still an amazing game 1 year on, and it's an adventure that should be undertaken by anyone who's seeking a challenge from gaming. I've still not tried the DLC yet, since when you beat the end boss from the original game, it automatically puts your character into a new game plus, where all the monsters get a massive boost in stats. But when I get some time to sit down to this 30 to 60 hour game, I will attempt it again, but it's a journey that should be experienced by everyone. Just be willing to die a lot, and check the wiki page, because this game is pure evil.